Welcome to Divorcing Strong, the podcast that pulls no punches when it comes to divorce. I'm Becky Sampson, better known as Bulldog Becky Brockovich, and I'm here to give you the straight talk, the strategies, and the subpoena secrets you won't hear anywhere else. With expert guests and proven advice, you'll learn your rights, your options, and gain your power that encourages a fair and equitable outcome. Divorce doesn't have to break you. It can build you. Let's get to it. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Divorcing Strong podcast. I'm Becky Sampson, your host, as always, and I love bringing you, I say this a lot, I love bringing you experts all across the country who are going to help you navigate the legal process as well as the process of the things that you experience when you're going through a divorce. And so I'm excited about our guest today because we're going to talk about more of the emotional side of recovering from divorce because it's not easy. But before we get started with that, I just wanted to remind everybody that go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel if you so feel inclined, and to share it with people who come along that need help. A lot of the family and friends know me that have people that are going through divorce. I can't even tell you the stories I hear on a weekly basis because I constantly take phone calls. I do a free call for anybody that calls me that's in dire need and like, okay, Becky, what do I do? So I'm not an attorney. I don't play an attorney. I'm not a licensed paralegal. However, just as somebody who's been through a tremendously high conflict divorce, representing myself up against several attorneys and winning my case, I definitely feel the pain of what it feels like to struggle and to keep motivated and to keep your spirits up and keep heading in the right direction so that you can come out of your divorce a lot stronger. Also want to remind you to go ahead to go to my website and get your free download of the 100 divorce terms. I notice that people are getting them now, and it's amazing. If you really are new to this space, or even if you have an attorney, or if you're further on in your divorce case, I'm guarantee you that this right here is going to be one of your greatest tools in order to understand how to navigate in the legal process. Every single one of those divorce terms, some of them you'll use, some of them you won't, but I guarantee you're going to be way ahead of most people who are going through divorce because you'll have the right education and knowledge that you need. So with that, let me just tell you a little bit about about the guest that I have on today. Joyce Ayers isn't just a coach. She's a beacon of women who, through divorce, don't have to be destructive. As a heart-centered divorce coach, certified conscious uncoupling, and trained in NLP and hold on. Okay, so that didn't work. Let's just see. I'm trying a new tool today, and it went a little bit too fast. So I'm going to go ahead and start that over. No editing needed here. Joyce Ayers isn't just a coach. She's a beacon for women who thought divorce had to be destructive. As a heart-centered divorce coach, certified in conscious uncoupling and trained in NLP and hypnosis, she guides women through the emotional whirlwind of separation using tools rooted in healing, self-discovery, and transformation. She invites women to see divorce not as an end, but as a powerful rebirth. Through her signature method, she helps clients release regret, process grief, reclaim their voice, and emerge with clarity, confidence, and the freedom to create a life they love. Her work emerges not just from theory, but she's a lived experience. On her social media, she writes, "The marriage ended, but your story isn't over. It's just waiting for you to pick up the pen." I love that. She speaks directly to women who's lost themselves in relationships, offering them a safe, compassionate container to heal old wounds and step into their truth. More than just moving on, She guides women to break free from codependent patterns, reconnect with their authentic selves, and design a post-divorce life rooted in self-love, power, and purpose. In your marriage, if your marriage is ending or already ended, she helps you reclaim yourself, rewrite your story, and heal into who you were always meant to be. And I love that. I love that. I want to go ahead and welcome Joyce to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Becky. Wow. Just like, oh, who's that person she's in?
I know. You know what? I say that all the time when I'm a guest and like they do something with my bio and I'm like, is that really me? Like, did I really go through that? So, and yes, I'm very, very excited to have you on the show. And so welcome. And thank you I know we've had a little technical problems this morning, but that's okay. Life happens. We're here and we get to share your beautiful spirit with the world. So tell us kind of, I know when we talked before, you have a really great story and why you came into this space and why you're so passionate. So let's start there at least.
Yeah. I'm all about empowering women in whatever way that is, whether it's, using our voice to follow a passion, to birth something to life, whether it's our children or a craft, a hobby, or even to shift gears. It's like just always what's on the inside that wants to be lit up and expressed and shared with the world and that we're passionate about. But then we hide, right? We hide it because it's like, oh, maybe that's going to be too much or not confident enough because we haven't built the confidence by doing it. And so, it's just, I've always been on this journey to, lift women up and like, what is your potential? Like, what is it? What's your dream? And then of course we all light up when we talk about our dream that hasn't been lived yet. But then we kind of shut the door and turn the lights off and put it in a closet again. And it's like, no, go live that dream. And whether it's after a relationship ends, because, sometimes that's what it takes. And that's what I found, with for myself. I became a coach while I was married and I did a lot of soul digging, excavating. And it was after the relationship ended and I wasn't playing that role anymore that I could really focus on myself and what I was doing with my life and where it was going. And yeah, that was possible in the relationship, but there was a part of me that didn't allow that freedom. So
Freedom to just be yourself be
by myself. Yeah. Cause I was busy tending to others.
Yeah.
And so that I could feel comfortable, I could feel secure. Like, it's all the patterns that we are functioning within that we don't even know. And then when the dynamic of the relationship or the situation
changes,
isn't there anymore, like even if you're in a working for a company and your role, what your job is, but then when you leave that company, all of a sudden it's like, wow, like I'm going to follow this dream and I can actually do this and that. I don't have to be this robot that with all these expectations. So I just love this work that I'm on because people light up. They discover parts of themselves that they didn't know were there, that were shut down for a long time, and then going through the journey of writing this next chapter in their own voice rather than from the ancestral voice. I don't know if we'll get into this much, but it's like, we pattern ourselves after our family members or the community we're in or the culture. And then when we break away from that, then it's like, well, who are we?
Well, and I think a lot of women, you might have experienced this too, but I think a lot of women, we put labels on ourselves, right? Or we're like, I'm now the wife, I'm now the mom, I'm now the whatever. And so sometimes when all of that changes, like you're talking about, it's like, okay, now who am I? Like because we tend to be people who are like people pleasers and do what everybody else wants. Not always. I'm just saying sometimes that is the way. So we kind of lose ourselves. So what you're saying is you kind of help people find that North Star again within their own soul, and create a plan going forward. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. And, it's like we need to go through it to get to the other side. And especially in a relationship, where there's a lot of struggles and challenges. It's like, I just want this to be easy, and but our growth is in going through it. And we learn about ourselves. We learn about relationships. We learn about what we haven't been allowing ourselves and what we truly want. Like, so going through that, as uncomfortable as it is, there's so much growth on the other side. There's a book called The Big Leap.
I love it.
Yeah. And it's all about the upper limits
Yeah.
that we put on ourselves. Like,
I've read that so many times, and I just think, God, and I think that is one of the challenges, is getting so comfortable in our own skin. It takes years to know who we are, what we like, what we don't like, what we're good at, what we're not good at. That is a great book. If someone's,
it is. And through trainings that I've gone through that have really helped me, it's almost like it's like a slingshot to the other side, right? Rather than just like, going across the bridge real slow. It's just like got catapulted over the bridge to the other side with these NLP practices, conscious uncoupling, that, it takes time to heal after a relationship or some like event or, thing that's happened in life. And yes, it takes time, but do we have to drag it out? And it's like, no, it's like, go into the emotion, go into the experience. Well, it was pretty traumatic. And it's like, well, I'm not talking about reliving an experience. It's like, just kind of dip your toe in and get a learning from that. And who weren't you being? And, what got you to that point? And, this is all in my journey. It's like, I was like a quiet little mouse. Like, don't take any notice to me. I'm just going to go with the flow, and I'll just be a fly on the wall, and I'll contribute in many ways through community service and volunteering that helped me feel like I had a role other than a wife and a mother, because I didn't know what my identity was. So I was always contributing to others' dreams and mid purposes and things. And then finally it's like, would I have my own ideas and my own dreams? And then, eventually pursuing those, because that upper limit was raised. It goes away. It's just, I raised it up. And so when we talk about an upper limit, imagine like there's this range, and this is the comfort range. And if it goes too low, then we bump it up so that we're still in the range.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but if it goes too high, then we bring it back down after time. And this, like, money is always a good one, right? It's like, I'm comfortable in this. Like, I don't have enough money. Okay, I'll make more money. And so I'm making too much money. Oh, this is really great. But then we sabotage ourselves somehow. Like, we go and spend it all and then we bring it back down into the range. So that's the same with love and who we are. You can look at every area of life pretty much, and we are all functioning in this range that's comfortable. It's familiar. We know what to expect. Imagine the dog. Like, dogs are always great. Like, they know when it's time to eat and go to sleep. Like, there's all of these little cues that indicate what to expect. Mm-hmm. And then when something changes, like maybe you go on a trip and you take the dog to a new environment, they like, okay, what door do I go out? Where's the food bowl? That's like us. Like, if we pursue a different interest, or, the relationship isn't there anymore, it's like we flounder, it's like fish out of water, the saying.
Yeah. And so that kind of goes back to what you talk about is this rebirth, right? And I mean, on your website, you call divorce an opportunity for transformation. Could you walk us kind of through what that rebirth process actually looks like emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and when someone steps into the conscious uncoupling with you? Explain a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, going back to what's familiar, it's a pattern. It's the programming that we function within. And we don't question it usually, until something's not going well, or there's things that have us like, we can't, that same situation or environment is no longer there to keep that pattern going. So in this conscious uncoupling program, we look at, right into the emotions. It's like, well, what did you give up of yourself? What did you tolerate? What were you denying? What were you not accepting or forgiving? And going into those emotions, and then it's almost like we're just loving on ourselves for
Right.
what we didn't allow. And so we go through that process, and there's like, well, what was needed instead? Not from the other person. This is all to do with us. Like, well, he should have done that, or she should have done that, or, blah, 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 the would have, should have, could have. It's like, no, what were you actually experiencing internally, and what did you need? And then start to find some freedom in that, like, because it's like a pressure cooker. All these emotions are in here, and then then one day do they just explode, or they're always exploding, depending on if we're in that fight or flight. And then we just go through this wonderful, beautiful process of unraveling it and becoming, rebirthing the part of ourselves that maybe hasn't been allowed since you were a little child. And a lot of times from the birth till about 7 years old is when all of our programming takes place. What do we have to do to be noticed? What do we, how do we get our needs met or not? All of the programming, the training, I call it domesticated.
Yeah.
Just like, animals are just playful, and then they're puppies and they're doing their thing. And then we told them, no, you have to sit. No, there's all of these rules. And so as humans, we're also domesticated when we're young, or we're let to just roam freely and wild, one or the other. And we carry that into our whole life. Like, oh, I have to get good grades before somebody validates me. I have to, in dating, it's like, where do you want to go eat? Oh, it doesn't matter. I don't care. It's like, but there is
guys, by the way, do not like that.
Yeah, exactly. And so
they're like, just tell us.
We already know, like, yeah, I want pizza. I don't want the burger, so, but I don't want to upset them. I don't want to lose this person, because like if I say what I want, well, then people go away, or they make me wrong. And so again, we carry that all the way through. And then we wonder why there's a breakdown in our relationships later on. It's let me see, I don't recall the name of the book offhand, but if we don't know ourselves really deeply, like what is meaningful to us, what's important to us, if we don't know that going into a relationship, then it's kind of like a free-for-all, and we just settle for whatever. So after the relationship ends, that dynamic of the relationship and the pattern is still there, and we're going to like redo the pattern. So having like a rebirth, reclaiming the parts of ourselves that maybe were never there, or we let out a little bit, but then we got like told no, right? So
let me ask you something. Do you find, I mean, in the ideal world, it'd be great when people are coming out of divorce, they're going, yeah, this is what I did, and this is the reflection, and really doing the internal work so that they're not blaming the other person. That would be the ideal. But do you run into people that it's a bit of a tug of war to get them to go, look, it's not about them. Let's work on you, and let's work on getting that, because that's the only thing you really have control of. Is how we react and how we process and what we look at. And sometimes if we don't do that work, then you'll repeat that same pattern again. And we really, do you find that people give you kind of kickback on that?
Sometimes we don't want to look at our, where we fell short, or all the times that we, our pattern, what it created for the other person. It's like, well, they never did anything around the house. Well, did you like thank them all the time? Well, they never really did the dishwasher right. They didn't, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, well, what did you train them? And just asking these little questions, it starts to be like, well, I guess I did do that. Mm-hmm. and it starts to break down our own barriers to looking at ourselves. Because it's like, wow, like, doing all those things, I don't want to acknowledge myself for being wrong, right? But there's just so much growth and acceptance of that, and because we're giving our power away when we're not being really truthful with ourselves. So people like that I work with, they come to like, oh, well, this is what I really wanted. Well, okay, how would that have gone if you did express that? Oh, well, they would have done this and that. Well, how do you know? Well, I just assume they would.
Yeah. Don't you think it's interesting too, is that if it's a lot easier being a victim, right? Like, this is all that's happened to me. You get sympathy, you get people going, oh, poor you, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
taking responsibility for what we have takes a lot of humility, takes a lot of honesty, and takes a lot of
Forgiveness.
forgiveness for ourselves. So that's another pendulum that I see also with women and men, but mostly women, right? So when we start counting all of those things, it's important for us not to go to shame and to beat up of ourselves and just go, hey, you know, this is something I've experienced. Even if you're in a high conflict and even abusive relationship, I remember my first marriage. I blamed myself towards the end because I was doing a lot of self-development work. I was like, oh, it's my fault he hit me. It's my fault that, you know, our marriage went down. And I had a friend of mine call me and say, look, you need to separate yourself. We need to call out first what happened to you, put that in a box, and now go to work on what you did to contribute to that and how you can stop those patterns moving forward. And so I think, and it's not about beat up. It's not about shame. It's not about, look how bad I am. It's just like, hey, I want to grow through this. I don't want to shrink. I don't want to fall back into old patterns. So the question I would have for you is that when you do find someone that is in that place, that's really having a hard time pulling away from the victim, how do you get them to gently and lovingly get to a place of acceptance and forgiveness for themselves?
Yeah, it's like how our thoughts are, like the thoughts that we're having. So it's like, okay, are we having the thoughts first? Or are we having the emotions first? And then it creates a physiological response.
Yeah.
And then we take action. So like there's a belief, there's a whole like cycle for that. And just like rather than looking at the situation or what happened or who did this or who did that, it's like, what thoughts were you having? Like, how do you like that deeper exploration that you're not going to get your lawyer to ask you about,
No,
or your wealth advisor or your health coach.
You don't want to, by the way. They're very expensive. They're not trained in that regard.
Yeah. So it's like, well, how do you feel about yourself? Again, taking the focus off of the other person, so that, you know, turning the lens. And again, we don't want that lens turned in on ourselves. So I do it in such a way that is very compassionate from my delivery, and also that they're compassionate with themselves.
Yeah.
And just like, well, just like a little snapshot of what's going on at this moment. It's like, well, how is that like? What was like growing up? And then they go into what that was like. It's like, well, what are the parallels here happening? And now they start connecting the dots. And then they're not, okay, the conscious mind is not trying to, like, you know, keep them safe and figure out all the answers. They're actually going down into the what was there. And so, well, you know, when your mom did that, when your dad did that, or like, you know, whatever need was there or not there, what did that feel like? And how is that playing out now where they feel powerless? Like, well, I guess that's just the way it is, and I'll never have my needs met. And there's always the story that we're not present to, that we are always thinking about unconsciously. And there's an exercise I take people through, and it's like, okay, just, you know, randomly throughout the day, you know, maybe set a alarm or something that goes off. And in that moment, what was I thinking? What thoughts was I having? Was it, you know, is it all the things to do, or did I actually go back in time to something that jogged my memory, and I was replaying that whole movie, you know, and that movie can have a lot of perspectives, right? Depending on who's created the movie. And so that movie is from that person's own perspective. And, you know, so he's like, you know, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? You know, our parents.
Without judgment. I mean, I call that, when I'm coaching, I call that detached observation. You're just watching the movie happen, and you're like, okay, when this happened, this is how I felt. No judgment, no beat up, no nothing. And it's just, but I think you're right. Like, what you're saying is you're basically taking somebody from unconscious behaviors to bringing it conscious and being able to label it or see it or name it, and then be able to go, okay, what am I going to do? What worked? What didn't work? No judgment. And what am I going to do differently?
Yeah. In NLP, it's called, like, we associate into an event and we relive it as if it's happening. And so our mind doesn't know that it's not happening right now, because we take ourselves back to relive it. And then that's how, and it's called an anchor. And so when we can step out of the picture, like yours, like whatever you were saying,
detached observation.
Yeah, we disassociate, and now we have like a lens on it. It's like, and we can actually see the dynamic of what was playing out. And it's like, oh, so now there's a new perspective that can be gained. Oh, well, actually, I guess I did say that. Well, I can see how they reacted to that, or I can see my reaction to, without going into the actual experience. So our mind, whether we choose to recall an event and have it replay, we can also choose to create a new version of that and a new future life that we have. Because again, our mind doesn't know that it's not actually happening, because whatever we tell our mind, it experiences in real time, even though it's a future event. And hopefully, I'm explaining this.
Well, I was going to say, as for people that are listening, that maybe this is all totally new to you. Like I've done therapy since I was 20, so for many, many years, and I've done a lot of training and a lot of stuff. But if this is new for you, maybe just simplify it in a way that's like, okay, what you're doing is really helping them heal from past trauma, and re-anchoring. Right, re-anchoring those emotions attached to those experiences. Am I explaining?
Yeah, it's like it's giving a past experience a new meaning, an actual new experience. And it's like, yeah, but it did happen. It's like, okay, in Landmark, it's like whatever happened the way it happened, and what didn't happen the way it was going to happen. Yeah, don't even try to just do that one. It's like a scramble. But it's like whatever we told ourselves about that event, we can actually tell ourselves a different story.
Yes.
And yeah, like your mom did this, he did that. And it's like, but the main thing is, now let's rewrite the story of what was it you needed? Well, I needed that, but I was never going to have it. Okay, forget about that part. What did you need? Because now we're rewiring the neurology of the emotional experience to be a little more positive. So instead of, I would say things and be completely ignored. Well, what did you want instead? Well, I wanted to be heard. Well, what would it have been like if you actually were heard? And hey, how was your day? And somebody actually listened. Wow, like I would actually feel like I mattered.
Yeah.
And what would that be like? And then we go down that rabbit hole. And as they're telling the story, they're rewiring it neurologically and emotionally. So that becomes the new imprint of that moment. There's still the memory of the other thing, but now the emotional imprint is more positive. And so whether you recreate a past event to have a new meaning or story, and then you can do the same to the future. So like a lot of times when relationships end, we're creating a new future based on all of the past.
Right.
And what happens then? We just get more of the past. Well, but it's not like I'm not with them anymore. It doesn't matter. The same wiring, the same, all the patterns are there. So we're going to like create a new future, like a beacon. Okay, where can I find those same patterns? Because that's familiar, right? The range. And so when we rewrite the story from the past, now we have a new starting place to rebirth, to reclaim a new future of our choosing. And so that's what power is. So no longer the victim wants to exist. The empowered version of you wants to move forward. And so this is like where when you're seeing your lawyer, we call it the hot mess. You go to the lawyer in this hot mess, and they're trying to advise you on this. And then you go to the realtor, and you go to this person and that person, all the things, all the check boxes that you have to do in a divorce. but you go around as this hot mess. And then you're trying to create a new future for yourself from the past. So I'm the one that kind of like, here's your bridge, here's your opportunity to cross to the other side, to, you know, like where there's a beautiful meadow instead of the barren wasteland of, you know, the desert.
Well, and it's kind of like a monkey, right? Like if a monkey swings from the past to the future, but you got to be willing to let go of the energy of the past in order to swing, or else you're going to get stuck. Yeah. And I think that is a very important thing to remember. And many times, this is something else I would love, I mean, really to support what you're doing is that many times we can't, yes, we are powerful beings. And I remember in my life when I was like, oh, I can do this by myself and I can do everything. But I even have coaches. I have people. Even just the other day, I had an experience happen that kind of took me to my knees. And I had to reach out to people that I know and I trust, like yourself, and to help me go through the process of just letting go of that emotion and that trauma, because that trauma hit several different traumas. And it doesn't mean I'm bad. It doesn't mean I'm good, whatever. It doesn't have any meaning to it. It's just, I experienced it. And then I find people in my life that help me process through that. And then I let go and get on, you know, instead of me sticking in that mud, you know? And so it's releasing the energy of those past things that keep us stuck. I love it.
Yeah, so don't want to release, we get stuck in the dreams that are not going to happen anymore. Like, you know, like right. I've always envisioned myself, oh yeah, I'm going to be with my family and grandkids and we're going to grow old and we're retire and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, those dreams are not going to happen now. Like, sure, yeah. I still have my family, my girls, but we hold on to that lost dream, that lost hope. And until we can like say, okay, well, this was that chapter of my life. And now I'm going to write a new chapter. And hopefully, you know, it's one from almost thanking the person for, wow, like if nothing ever changed, I would have kept being that same person.
Exactly.
I would have tolerated, I would have been okay. I would have just I would have accepted myself the way I was and them, even though it wasn't working. You know, like just, you know, those marriages that are just kind of going along and there's the life is just kind of going out of them. It's like, now it's your time to, hey, like, who was I being and who am I going to be? And let go of, we call it a cord or a tether, right? There's a book called The Untethered Soul.
Love that book.
Yeah, we're kind
you and I are soul sisters, girl.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good books out there I recommend. And yeah, and again, it's the thoughts that we're having. If we don't even know the thoughts we're having, we don't even know the dialogue that's constantly there that's creating our future. Yep. And so like letting just because you signed the divorce papers and the deed of the house over and everything doesn't mean it's over, because the emotional part will stay there a lifetime through the next relationship and all the things. It will stay there until you deal with it. It was like, what's that saying? It'll be done with you when you're done with it, or something like that. But yeah, like it's wanting to move on, because if not, we're just going to be in that victim place. You know, I know clients, well, not clients, I've worked with other, you know, but just people, I'll just say people that didn't want to let go of the past, and they're still bitter and angry 10 years later. Yep. And when the family gets together, it's like, oh gosh, like mom and dad, like, you know, they just already know you know, okay, sure, they're civil to each other, but the tension is there. And you can tell who's moved on and who's like still clinging. And it's like, really, do you want 10 years later, after leaving that relationship, the relationship is over, do you still be your body still experiencing all of the pain? And so what is that doing for you is the question to ask, like, to hold on to it for 10 years. What does that do for you? What doesn't it allow you to do?
You know, it's interesting, Joyce. I don't know if I told you about this when we talked before, but the day that I served divorce papers to my former husband, this last spouse, I left the airport because it was at the airport in Hawaii. And I had this little prayer in my heart. And I just said, please, God, keep my heart soft towards him and towards any future men in my life, men in general, because I knew, I mean, I had been divorced before. That was my second divorce. I knew that I was not going to allow this experience, because I never thought I'd get divorced again. You know, I didn't want that experience to ruin me. And I will say that that was probably one of the greatest challenges of my 3.5-year court case, was every time I went to court is to still see him as a human being, because I did not want to be destroyed. And I truly believe that that was one of the reasons why I was able to fairly quickly, marry my third husband, because I didn't hold it against everyone. I grew into this person, even in very high conflict, could still see him as a real person hurting. And he was just fighting back. And I think that's so important. And sometimes it's harder, and some days it was harder, some days it's easier. But it's vitally important. I mean, this is one of the last questions I'd ask you is how do you, when somebody is having a difficult time getting to that place of forgiveness and moving on, how do you really encourage them? You don't push them at all, because I don't believe in pushing people through that. But how do you really encourage them to release that tension and that anger, that frustration, that pain and that bitterness?
Yeah, we're tethered to that other person, and it's a primal instinct that we have of attachment. Without being with someone, we're very vulnerable in the wild, right? So it's really a primal instinct. And when we start focusing on ourselves and what we can control, again, the perspective changes.
Mm-hmm.
And if I didn't go through the conscious uncoupling program, who knows where my mindset, my thoughts would have been. It would be like, well, you did this to me, and I could have probably hung on to that for a really long time, if not forever. But the going through, whether it's conscious uncoupling or the NLP reprogramming and hypnosis, like really working with the unconscious mind, getting there, we can see the other person as a person, not someone who hurt us and did this to us and who didn't do this to us, but that person that we did love at one point.
Yep.
And there was something there in the relationship until it wasn't there. And whose fault was it? Well, it doesn't matter. It's something changed, either for myself or him, or the combination. And it was someone's fault? No. But what can I take away from this? And really take time if need be, or have these tools to just what can I take away from this? Again, go through it. And because if we never allow ourselves to go through the whole process, the grieving process of letting go and just acknowledging ourselves, then we never come out the other side of oh, now I have a new reality of myself and the situation with compassion that helps me move on. And again, like you said, please just keep my heart soft, because while I was hurting in the relationship, and really he was doing what he was doing, I was doing what I was doing, but what I was doing was actually creating the situation in the way that it was turning out. And so my heart was closing. And in the relationship. So if do I really want to go the rest of my life with a closed heart?
No, and that is the counterintuitive part of it, right? The more you keep your heart open, and people will go, well, gosh, why be vulnerable? Put yourself in that situation. And I still had a guarded heart. However, it was
wiser.
Open.
We're wiser instead of guarded. I've got this shield on us. We're wiser. We actually have boundaries of how we and knowing ourselves. It's well, this is how I want to be treated. This is how I want to express myself. This is how I want to be honored. So there's more power in opening the heart and being authentic. Yeah, but it's a real risk to be authentic.
Yep.
There's a lot more risk to our overall health by not being authentic and pretending we're okay, when we're not okay. And it's like, this is what I want for myself going forward. Not like, well, I'm not going to ever do that again. It's like, of course you're not, because now you know, but what are you going to do instead? Because a lot of us know what we don't want, but we don't take time to look at what it is we do want.
Yep.
And that is the turning point for people. That's the rebirth. What is it that you do want? And then right away, people will go back to like, well, I don't want that. And I don't want that. And I won't do that anymore. And it's like, but what will you do next? And there's this void. And unless you fill the void, you're going to attract more of the same.
Okay, so I do have another question for you. And it's been dying. I've been wanting to ask this question. What would you say to the person who's like, but I'm not healed yet, so I can't be in a relationship, or I can't go seeking, of course they're divorced, they're going through all of this healing work. At what point, what do you say to people that might have those kind of thoughts?
It's like start by building trust in yourself.
Yes.
Like trust in what you've always known there, like your intuition, and that that wasn't working for you. Like start trusting what that is. And that's part of the healing. Again, it's empowering yourself, and go out and meet people. Like go live life, go do the things that are fun for you. Have conversations with people, whether it's girlfriends or guy friends or just random people that you start talking to. You'll see how you're showing up. And it's like, why am I still doing that?
Yeah.
I used to do this in the relationship, but this is a stranger. Like, why am I doing this with this person? And now that's also part of the healing. And then,
and that's the thing, is you don't know that unless you get out there. So some people just say,
we can stay in our box. I'm not going to go out there at all. I'm not going to meet anyone. I'm going to hang around with the two or three friends that are in my range that don't require me to go above or below.
Yeah.
That I can just stay in my little safe zone, my comfort zone, and not grow. But you also don't learn. You don't expand your view of yourself in the world, because it can be a very vulnerable place. Because like, well, I tried that and I got hurt. Okay, well, let's look at what happened there. So again, we have our stories that we carry around with us. So let's create a new story.
I love that.
And allow yourself the time to heal, air quotes, to heal in whatever way that is, whether it's with your soul, your mind, to shift your thoughts. And, I remember after about 3 years after my divorce, I started to really like, did it take me 3 years? It's like, well, a lot of the work I did happened in the first 3 months to really catapult me, to be the catalyst to go on this journey. Was I ready to get into another relationship 6 months after ending a 30-year relationship? No.
Well, and every situation is different. I mean,
it is. And sometimes there's a knowing, but unless you know what your patterns are, you could be jumping into the next thing as a cure-all, right? As a fix-it.
Right. Yeah. And those are the rebounds.
Yeah.
Well,
so take your time and just feel it out. Just start navigating the waters. Yeah. Just like go down this road, just travel until you get your footing.
Love yourself and back into it. Love yourself and be patient, because it's a process.
Get the support. Gosh, if I didn't have the support, because I didn't go around telling people that our marriage was struggling, and I didn't. I kept it to myself, and I tried to figure it out. I really did. Just kept it to, it was just such an isolated place, and then I started slowly. Well, I feel that, it's like, I'm sharing my feelings with someone. And that helped me to grow. That helped to heal. Because now I started really saying and sharing with who I really was and what I was really experiencing. Going through divorce, it's a little T. It can be a big T, trauma. But what are you going to make it be on the other side? How about T is now the truth instead of trauma? It's like now write a big T with the truth of what you're going to do next. And
I love it.
Have that support. We all need support to help us see things in a different way, or even just see ourselves, especially, in a different way. Yeah.
Well, I do the T. I actually do the T for the reason is like what worked, what didn't work, without any judgment. What
Yeah.
worked, what didn't work. And I apply that to every aspect of my life, not just relationships, but things that I do in business and connections that I make and things like that. But Joyce, I want to thank you so much for coming on. I have one last question, which I always end my shows with, is what does divorcing strong mean to you?
Divorcing strong is, again, not the armor that we have to put on, but the coming back to the truth. Divorcing strong is be willing to look at ourselves and life and come out stronger for it, more resilient, more at peace. That's a big one. It's like just is strong, like as in, I gotta like really have these strong boundaries. It's like, no, be more at peace with yourself, with life, where you're going. Get grounded, unwavering. If you're a yogi, think of the warrior pose, right? Warrior 2 pose.
Right.
And, you're strong, like, you're solid with your feet, but your upper body is wide and expansive, and ready for the next thing. Like that's divorcing strong. It's like, prepare yourself for the future that you're creating. It's like, create your life after divorce. It's not more of the same, but create the life that is fulfilling, that is calling you, that you haven't let out of the box. Again, patterns. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for spending your time with us today. And thank you for sharing your wisdom, your experience. And thank you for just being in this space. I always like to thank people because I always say it can be a heavy space, but it's very rewarding when you empower someone with these tools in order for them to divorce strong. So thank you so much for joining us, Joyce. And thanks everybody for joining us another episode of Divorcing Strong. I've been your host, Becky Sampson, with Joyce Ayers. So have a great day, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening to the Divorcing Strong podcast. This episode is sponsored by Only Subpoenas, where we make subpoenas simple, powerful, and 100% compliant. If you're having a hard time getting the information you need to settle for a fair and equitable divorce, let us help you. Whether you're an attorney or you're navigating divorce on your own, subpoenas can uncover the truth, secure the evidence you need, and level the playing field. To see how we can help, book an appointment by visiting our website at onlysubpoenas.com.